Question 6 is the first question where we have a method. And over here, we initialize the method multiply, and it takes one parameter, the parameter s. We can skip what's inside the method for now, but we could just look at this last line and we could take note of that. This method returns something. So we have a method multiply, which takes one parameter s and which returns a value. Jumping onto the next piece of code, we see here multiply is called and go is passed in as the parameter for s. So what I like to do is I like to go up top where the method is, and I like to just say s is equal to go. And that way when we actually start doing the method with the proper method call, all the parameters are there and ready for me to reference. I won't get confused with anything. Whatever multiply returns, we're going to set it equal to new string, and we're going to print that value at the end. So why don't we go ahead and start doing the function call. The first statement is the function is saying if the length of s is greater than or equal to 0. So go is a string with 2 characters inside of it, and so therefore its length is greater than 0, and we could do what's inside that if statement. The first thing says set start equal to s at index 0. So if we do our indexing, this is index 0, this is index 1, that's going to be the letter G, or the first character. We then say end is equal to the character at index -1. So if we do our negative indexing, this is -1, -2, that character is going to be O. And after that, we have this for loop. It says for letter in S. And just to get our bearings straight with this for loop, I like to look at this and I like to say S is my collection. S is a collection, which is a string. And because S is a string, that means letter is going to be characters. So I like to go ahead right there and I like to write the values that letter takes on during this entire for loop. So S has the character G in it, which will be the first character that, or the first value that letter becomes, and S has the value O in it, which will be the second value that letter comes. That way when I'm doing this for loop, I could just reference these values to know what letter should be in the next iteration. And on top of that, I like to organize my work inside a T-chart. So let's set up the T-chart real quick. Over here, I have my initial values, and this is what all the variables were before my for loop. Here will be my first time through the for loop, and this will be all the values the second time through the for loop. So now that we have this set up, we could start working on tackling the for loop and going through the problem. The first time through the for loop, letter will take on the value G. So since we took it from this collection, we could just cross off G right there. We know letter will not take that again. And then we say start plus equals start. And this might be confusing, but all it's saying is we're going to give start a new value. So we're going to have a new value for start. And we're going to set it equal to the old value of start plus, in this case, the old value of start again. And if you're still confused by this, just think real quickly about some other ways you've seen this notation. Sometimes you've seen it with the value for numbers. So here we have x equals 1, and you've seen something like x plus equals 2. In this case, at the end, you know that x is going to be equal to 3. And that's because we're saying new x is equal to old x plus 2. So in this case, old x was 1, and we're adding 2, and that's how we got 3. And we're doing the same exact thing with start. And so hopefully you'll be able to see the relationships between that. So start had the value G. I see that right here in my initial box. So we're going to do start plus start, which gives us GG. Our next statement is saying end plus equals end. So we're doing a very similar operation. the new value of end is going to be equal to the old value of end plus end again. So end is going to be equal to 2 O's. There's no more statements in the for loop, so we're going to repeat it. This time, letter takes on the value O. So letter is equal to O. And we could cross it off from our collection. Again, start plus equals start. Start was GG. We see that over here. So let's do GG plus GG, and we get start is equal to 4Gs. Just like that. And now end plus equals end. We're doing the same exact thing now, but with the end variable. So end is going to be equal to OO plus OO, which is 4 O's, just like that in a string. And now we're done to the second iteration. If we look at our for loop, we'll see we have no more characters here in this collection to grab. So that means our for loop is totally over. And we could do the last line of code inside the for loop, which is this return statement. So we're returning start plus end. Start was GG, GG, and end was OO, OO. And so we're going to return this string. When we return it, where does it go? It goes into this new value, new string. So new string is going to be equal to this. And at the end, this is the value we're printing. And that's how we get D.